if you're here because you just love my preaching and you think I'm great, he's like, I'm glad you like my preaching. But if that doesn't translate to you trusting in Jesus and putting your hope in him, he's like, I'm gonna let you down. But it is not about men. It is not about women. It is about the living God. And man, that messed with my head. When Jesus says you are the light of the world, you actually means you. I don't know if you know the purpose God has for you, the plans he has for you. And I'm not saying this as some inspirational message, something just to make you feel good. No, Jesus looks at his followers, and it's kind of the scandal of the gospel. It's because we know deep down, like, really, if it's left up to me, I can't change the world. But he's saying, no, when you give it all to me, you can absolutely change the world. And so for me, I grew up in Utah. And then I graduated high school at 17. So that meant in Mormon land, like you can't go on your mission, your Mormon mission, until you're 18. So I had to go to college for a year. And I got a scholarship to go to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, the UNLV, right? So I'm in Mormon, Utah, and I go to UNLV in Las Vegas. I don't know if you know this, but neither of those places are considered the hotbed of evangelical Christianity, okay? So I didn't know any Christians, like at all. And I go, and it's in the first year I meet my dorm mate, and he's not a Christian, but I tell him I'm a Mormon. And next year I'm going on a mission, and my whole goal will be to convert people to Mormonism. And so this year, I'm gonna do my studies, but I'm gonna be getting prepared. And he goes, hey, I'm not a person of faith, but what I'll do is I'm gonna help you. I said, how are you gonna do that? He goes, well, I'm a theater major and I need practice too. He goes, why don't you try to convert me and then I'll play different characters. Like I'll be the East Coast liberal, I'll be the Southern evangelical. And so what's weird about this, guys, is that God uses it. He uses it to get me to start asking questions about Mormonism that I would have never asked before. Like this guy wasn't a Christian, but he was a smart dude, and he would ask me questions and challenge me in my faith and ask me to defend myself in my faith, so much so that by the end of the first semester, I went home and I had several meetings with my dad and my grandpa, who was the bishop. And by Christmas break, I was like, I can see the contradictions. I can see the falseness. And I left the faith. Now, I would love to say that the next day I found a Christian church and went to that Christian church and gave my life to Jesus. I didn't. I just went back to school, and I was trying to figure out how to deal with like the first 18 years of my life. Like I just went down the road and going, okay, I don't know what's next. I don't know who God is. And then 2 years later, God brings a girl into my life. Because as most guys know, it always starts with a girl, okay? And I meet this girl, and she is smart, and she is beautiful, and like she's like everything I could have ever wanted. There was like one problem with her, and that was that she wouldn't pay attention to me. And it didn't make any sense, guys. This is the late 90s. I had an amazing head of hair. Like I had, blonde, like highlights even, But she wouldn't give me a look. My guy friends were friends with her group of girlfriends, and one night we were out and we were getting dinner or something, and she says, I gotta go home early. I gotta get up early. I gotta go home right now. I gotta get up early and work in the morning. And I just wanted to have more conversations with her, and so I lied and I said, so do I. Could you give me a ride, right? Real honest of me. Anyway, we're walking towards her car. Come on, guys, don't act like you've never done, All my guys in the room left me on that. Anyway, we're walking towards her car, and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna get like 10 minutes of conversation. And we get up towards the car where I see is hers, and I see on the back of the car a Jesus fish. And I'm like, oh man. I didn't know Christianity, but what I did know is I didn't want to deal with religion anymore. Like I was working through the wounds of Mormonism, and I just kind of lumped them all in one thing. But what you have to understand is when you have like a church planner's mindset, Like you always have to be able to deal with obstacles and quickly see how maybe it could be positive. And so as much as I was like, oh man, almost immediately, I'm like, wait. Maybe it's a used car, okay? So we sit down in the car. I said, hey, what is that fish on the back? She goes, I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm like, well, what does that mean? For the first time in my life, I meet a Christian who shares their faith with me. And I remember listening and hearing it, and I would love to say again that I just said yes in that moment, but I was just like, I've never heard this before. I don't know what to do with it. But what she realized in that moment is that God had placed her in that space to be a light. God had placed her in that space to be a messenger of his story and of his goodness. And she didn't care who was sitting there. She didn't care what the circumstances were. And she shared her faith with me. And she invited me to her church. And I hadn't been to a church in 2 years. And all I'd ever been to growing up were Mormon churches. And so I said, okay, I'll go. And I want you to know, I didn't say that because I wanted to go to church. I said that because she was hot, okay? So if you said that today because the person invited you is attractive, that's okay. God can work with that, all right? Sometimes people will say, first time I came, somebody just promised me lunch. I'm like, that's fine too. God will begin working. So she invites me to church, and I'm like, hey, what's it like? Because Mormonism, like, when you went, you suited up, full suit, tie, everything, right? And what you would know in the Mormon church is you knew the people who were outsiders because they would roll in like khakis and a golf shirt, and you were like, they're not very holy, right? And then if they came in jeans, it was like, they're definitely going to hell. Like, they're not. So she's like, oh, it's fine. It's super casual. Just wear what you want. And I was like, I'm not looking like the idiot. So I suited up. And I looked like the idiot, right? So I go with her, and about the third time I'm there, I hear someone share the message of Jesus in contrast with themselves. Like, this is a preacher who my whole life I was taught to put faith in men. I was taught to put faith in leaders, and they were where you found, like, in a way, your salvation. And he's up there, and he's going through all these negative traits, and then he ultimately says, he goes, this is me when I don't submit to Jesus. He goes, and I have no hope if I don't give it all to him. And that messed with my head. I had never heard that before. He said, if you're here because you just love my preaching and you think I'm great, he's like, I'm glad you like my preaching, but if that doesn't translate to you trusting in Jesus and putting your hope in him, he's like, I'm gonna let you down. He goes, it is not about men, it is not about women, it is about the living God. And man, that messed with my head. So I started going to classes. I started trying to figure out what it looked like to take this Christianity seriously, but at the same time I was dealing with my past. But after 3 years, I finally gave my life to him. But folks, yeah, thanks. And this is because someone was willing to say what Jesus said is true, that we are the light. And see, you guys are stepping into this story and you're saying, yes, we're going to take what he says is true, and we're going to be people who say it is all about him, and let's let him be the light. Let's let him come alive in us and be the light to this world.